I'm Barbara Sam. First, a quick look at the top stories this evening. Deported Salvadorian national Kilmar Abrego Garcia indicted on federal smuggling charges. Handful of House Democrats join GOP in passing sanctuary city crackdown bills. Trump administration asks Supreme Court to uphold Education Department layoffs. Trump urges Fed to slash interest rate despite strong jobs report. German Chancellor urges U.S. to lower tariffs, supports open market. And now to the news. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a 29-year-old Salvadorian national, has been returned to the United States to face federal charges after being indicted in Tennessee on 2 counts related to human smuggling. According to court documents unsealed on Friday, Garcia is accused of conspiring to unlawfully transport illegal aliens for financial gain and conducting transportation of undocumented individuals within the U.S. The indictment alleges that Garcia organized a smuggling operation that moved illegal immigrants from Texas to other interior states. Children were reportedly among those transported. Law enforcement sources indicate that Garcia's activity may have spanned several years, with body cam footage from a 2022 Tennessee traffic stop showing Garcia driving with 8 undocumented passengers. At the time, troopers flagged him for possible gang affiliation and notified federal authorities. Garcia was deported in March to El Salvador, where he was reportedly held at the CECOT high-security prison. His removal drew attention after it was revealed that a prior 2019 court order had restricted deportation to El Salvador due to concerns over potential violence. U.S. officials later confirmed that discussions with El Salvador's government had facilitated his return. The Department of Homeland Security and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio have not issued further details on Garcia's case. A federal court has ordered him to appear in Nashville, Tennessee, where the indictment was filed. His legal team denies allegations of gang involvement, while U.S. authorities cite prior alerts linking Garcia to MS-13. Proceedings are expected to begin within the coming week. Watch this.
We're here today to announce a major update in an important case. Abrego Garcia has landed in the United States to face justice. On May 21st, a grand jury in the Middle District of Tennessee returned a sealed indictment charging Abrego Garcia with alien smuggling and conspiracy to commit alien smuggling in violation of Title 8 U.S.C. 1324. We want to thank President Bukele for agreeing to return Abrego Garcia to the United States. Our government presented El Salvador with an arrest warrant, and they agreed to return him to our country. We're grateful to President Bukele for agreeing to return him to our country to face these very serious charges. This is what American justice looks like. Upon completion of his sentence, we anticipate he will be returned to his home country of El Salvador.
2 Republican-led bills targeting sanctuary cities passed the U.S. House of Representatives this week, with support from a small number of Democrats. The votes reflect bipartisan concern over illegal immigration and federal support for jurisdictions that limit cooperation with immigration authorities. The first bill passed Thursday in a 211 to 199 vote, seeks to withhold Small Business Administration, known as SBA services, from jurisdictions designated as sanctuary cities. 5 Democrats joined Republicans in support. This includes Henry Sellier of Texas, Laura Gallant of New York, Don Davis of North Carolina, Jared Golden of Michigan or Minnesota, and Mary Gillespie of Perez of Washington. A second bill approved Friday morning would explicitly bar illegal immigrants from receiving SBA loans. 8 Democrats voted in favor, including the 5 from the earlier bill, along with Representative Tom Suozzi, Josh Harder, Marcy Kaptur, and Christine McDonough-Rivet. The measures drew opposition from House Democratic leadership, though no official caucus-wide voting directive was issued on the second bill. Republican lawmakers described the legislation as part of a broader push to enforce immigration laws and prevent the use of federal resources in jurisdictions that defy them. In more news, the Trump administration has petitioned the U.S. Supreme Court to uphold massive layoffs at the Department of Education following a lower court's injunction that reinstated nearly 1,400 employees. The Department of Justice argues that the decision to dismantle the agency aligns with the administration's policy of returning education oversight to the states. U.S. District Judge Monyoung Jong had previously blocked the layoffs, warning the move could cripple the department. The administration countered that the judge had overstepped by halting executive action aimed at downsizing what it views as a bloated federal agency. The legal dispute stems from lawsuits filed by school districts, education unions, and a coalition of 21 Democratic attorney generals. They argue the layoffs hinder the department's ability to carry out legal mandated functions, including support for special education and enforcement for civil rights protections. While President Trump has acknowledged that Congress alone can fully eliminate the department, he issued a March directive ordering its functions scaled back. The administration has proposed transferring student loan management to the Small Business Administration and moving disability services to Health and Human Services, though those changes remain pending. Let's take a look.
You have said and what you said the president cares about. He wants the best educated students, right? He wants to make education great again, right?
Yes.
I don't understand. It seems like a logic fallacy to me. You think the federal Department of Education is not living up to what it ought to be doing, and you cite some statistics for students who are not doing as well as they ought to be. And yet you decide that the answer to that is not to check on these investments and make sure students are achieving. It is shut the whole doggone thing down.
Well,
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think the fallacy is the way you're stating it. And what I have looked at and said from the very beginning, we have failed. This system we have in place does
So it
not
is your
work.
mission
It has
to
been
shut it
looked
down.
at. It is the mission to shut down the bureaucracy of the Department of Education and return
To
education
shut down the
to
Department of
states.
Education.
To shut down the bureaucracy.
What's the balance right now?
To shut down the bureaucracy
What's the balance
of the
right
Department
now
of Education.
in the funding for education? What's the split? The pie chart. How much is federal? How much is state and local?
Federal is about 8 to 10%.
Correct. The rest is state and local. The burden is already there. And you don't want to come up with the 8% to help our kids succeed, to help their mental health,
excuse
to
me
help
just a
kids
second.
with disabilities.
No, you're wrong. You're
It
misstating.
is a logic fallacy.
No, you are misstating. The funding, it's not taking away all of this funding. I've already said Title I-A funding, IDEA funding is still going to come
How about
into
the mental
states.
health funding?
There may be some more of that funding if HHS oversees then.
But the president
mental
has
funding,
unconstitutionally
then,
cut
therefore,
off the
that
grants.
funding may come into those states. So
How about-
I think we have to see
how about
how the
students
full
with
budget
disabilities?
happens.
How about
and
students?
I think we have to see what those programs are that are going to best serve every student and not just be put by the wayside.
As I said, you on page 1 of your testimony,
The
you said
gentlelady's time
the president's
expired.
vision is to make education great again. It's a logic fallacy, but I guess we're not going to teach our kids about logic fallacies.
Thank
We
you.
have-
The news will be back after this break.
I'm on the record.
Now, according to ADP research, private sector payrolls increased by only 37,000 last month. That is lower than.
Money is the sign of shortage. Money is not the sign of blessing, it is the sign of shortage. Money is not the evidence of blessing, it is the evidence of shortage. It is the evidence of lack. I know nobody ever told you that. So you better listen to me now. I walk in absolute prosperity. So I can tell you, money is not a sign of prosperity. It's a sign of lack. It's a game that defines the classification of people. Once you are able to see beyond it and understand what God's plan is and who you are not controlled by money. Money becomes your slave. Somebody said, I wish I heard what Pastor just said in the month of May. Month of blessing, I would have applied it. You still have time. We carry all the blessings of the previous month into the new ones. That's what we do. Never let the thought of money control your attitude.
Yes, sir.
You know, there are people who become happy when they have money. And when they don't have it, you can tell. You just look at them, you can tell. You can tell they're broken down. Money is their master. They're worshiping the God of Mammon. When you are delivered from that, or when you've not been enslaved by that, you don't know when you've had money and when you've not had money, because you don't operate with those numbers. La korabakasaya, rabakandalobosia. Are you still there?
Welcome back. President Donald Trump has called on Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell to cut interest rates by a full percentage point, even as the U.S. economy posted stronger than expected job growth in May. Trump's demand follows the addition of 139,000 jobs last month and a steady unemployment rate of 4.2%. In a post on Truth Social, Trump described a full-point rate cut in quote as rocket fuel for the economy and criticized Powell for delaying action, saying he is costing our country a fortune. The president argued that the Fed should mirror European central banks, which have cut rates multiple times to stimulate growth. Despite Trump's push, markets anticipate no immediate rate cuts, with Federal Open Market Committee unlikely to lower rates during its upcoming meeting. Analysts had expected softer job numbers due to ongoing trade tensions and tariff effects, but May's performance exceeded expectations, dampening prospects for aggressive monetary easing. The European Central Bank recently issued its 8th rate cut since last June, while the Fed has held steadily amid concerns that tariffs could reignite inflation. Trump maintained that lower borrowing costs are essential for managing U.S. debt and repeated his criticism of Powell's leadership, asserting the economy is thriving despite him. Watch this.
Now, according to ADP research, private sector payrolls increased by only 37,000 last month. That is lower than all estimates in a Bloomberg survey of economists. The data marked the second month in a row when the figures from ADP were well below expectations. The ADP figures in the past 2 months suggest that high anxiety around Trump's trade war are increasingly weighing on business staffing decisions. Economists anticipate the labor market will show more signs of cooling in the coming months. The bad news from ADP came only a day after the Trump administration surprised experts with some unexpected government data indicating things are looking up for job seekers. After the data release, Trump on his Truth Social platform said that ADP number is out too late. Powell must now lower the rate. He is unbelievable. Europe has lowered 9 times. In addition, U.S. surveys slid further on trade uncertainty. Very weak ISM service sector data and a soft jobs number from the ADP indicate that the corporate sector remains concerned about the economic environment.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz expressed concerns over U.S. tariffs during a visit to Washington, D.C. on Thursday, saying that the current trade policy is negatively affecting Germany's economy. Merz emphasized that free trade and open markets are essential for the shared prosperity of the U.S. and Europe. In an interview with Fox News, Merz declined to comment directly on domestic disputes, including a recent social media post by Elon Musk predicting a recession due to the tariffs. However, he said the measures are really threatening Germany's economy or economic interests and call for efforts to reduce them. The Trump administration has imposed a 25% tariff on imported vehicles and parts, along with a temporary 10% tariff on all goods. Germany, for its part, maintains a 10% tariff on most American car imports. Merz reaffirmed that tariff negotiations should occur between the U.S. and the European Commission, but made clear that he favors rolling them back. President Trump has stated his goal is an open market, but only under fair terms he considers fair for the United States. Let's take a look.
I'm here, Mr. President, to talk with you later on how we could contribute to that goal. And we all are looking for measures and for instruments to bring this terrible war to an end. And may I remind you that we are having June 6th tomorrow. This is D-Day anniversary, when the Americans once ended a war in Europe. And I think this is in your hand in specific, in ours.
That was not a pleasant day for you?
No, that was not a pleasant...
This was not a great
in
day.
the long run, Mr. President, this was the liberation of my country from Nazi dictatorship.
That's true.
So,
that's true.
And we know what we owe you. But this is the reason why I'm saying that America is again in a very strong position to do something on this war and ending this war.
The Swiss government has proposed sweeping new capital requirements for banking giant UBS, mandating an additional $26 billion in core capital following its 2023 acquisition of Credit Suisse. The measures aimed at boosting financial system resilience would also require UBS to fully capitalize its foreign subsidiaries and potentially reduce share buybacks. The Swiss National Bank backed the proposal, saying it will significantly strengthen the bank's stability and reduce the risk of future bailouts. UBS, while supporting some aspects of the plan, called the capital hike extreme and warned it could impact competitiveness and shareholders' returns. Analysts note the rule would give UBS a long implementation window, with a full compliance potentially delayed until 2034. UBS is expected to use annual profits and dividends to gradually meet the capital threshold without halting buybacks altogether. The proposed reforms come amid lingering concerns over UBS size and global exposure. Critics argue the move could dampen lending and growth, while supporters say it addresses systematic risk after Credit Suisse collapse and reflects UBS' expanded footprint in global finance. The news continues. Stay with us after this break.
This is the month of June. And you already know this June is the month of prayer. And that means that we're going to pray more than we usually do. We're going to add some extra time to our praying. First of all, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I usually send out posts to you for prayer. But in the month of June, every Tuesday, and every Thursday, and every Saturday, you should get messages from your church and your cell on prayer. You're going to be praying, and then also early morning praying. It'll be according to the time zones. All right? So early morning in your time zone. I know you're thinking, so what is early morning? How early is early? Okay, I'll give you, should I give you a range of time or should I give you a specific time? I should give you a specific time. All right? 5 next 1 week. Then at the end of the 1 week, I'll tell you what else we're going to do. So we'll do this every day. So that's a beautiful one.
This excerpt is brought to you by Loveworld News.
Loveworld News, keeping the praise of God on your lips.
Welcome back. Russia launched large-scale missile and drone attacks on Ukraine early Friday, killing at least 3 and injuring 49, according to Ukrainian officials. The strikes targets Kyiv, Lustig, and Chernopol, and were described by Moscow as retaliation for recent Ukrainian drone strikes on Russian air bases. Russia's defense ministry said the attacks used high-precision, long-range weapons and targeted military infrastructure. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed that emergency workers were among the dead and said over 400 drones and 40 missiles were involved. The strike follows Ukraine's Spider's Web drone operation, which reportedly damaged a third of Russia's strategic missile carriers. Zelensky urged international allies, including the U.S., to increase pressure on Russia, indirectly criticizing President Trump's stance on the war. Air raid alerts were active in multiple regions, including Kyiv, Kharkiv, Sumy, and Luhansk. Russia also claimed to have intercepted 174 Ukrainian drones overnight and multiple cruise missiles over the Black Sea. Peace talks in Istanbul earlier this month ended without progress as both sides failed to agree on ceasefire terms. Let's take a look.
Several people are dead after Russia launched an intense missile and drone barrage on Kyiv in the early hours on Friday, Ukrainian officials said. Powerful explosions shook the country as the attacks followed a warning of revenge from Russian President Vladimir Putin, conveyed via US President Donald Trump after Ukrainian drones destroyed several strategic bomber aircraft. Ukraine's foreign minister wrote on social media Russia had responded by attacking civilians, with multi-story buildings hit and energy infrastructure damaged. The Air Force said Russia had used 407 drones, one of the largest numbers recorded in a single attack. 45 cruise and ballistic missiles were also fired, it said. Russia's defense ministry said its forces had struck military and military-related targets in response to what it called Ukrainian terrorist acts. 3 of those killed in the attack were first responders who had rushed to the scene of one of the strikes, the country's interior minister said. This apartment building was struck in the attack, with this resident's home catching fire.
Usually we stay in the corridor during attacks, but this time my wife also insisted that we sleep in the corridor, so I can say that she saved my life.
President Volodymyr Zelensky said dozens of people nationwide had also been injured in the overnight attacks, which struck several other towns and cities. He called on Ukraine's Western allies to ramp up pressure on Russia. Ukraine's military said it had launched a preemptive strike overnight on airfields in 2 Russian regions, in addition to hitting at least 3 fuel reservoirs.
The Russian paramilitary Wagner Group has announced its withdrawal from Mali, stating that it has completed its main mission in the country after 3 years of operations alongside Malian forces. In a message posted to its Telegram channel, Wagner claimed it had helped kill thousands of militants and their commanders, who had terrorized civilians in the Sahel region for years. The group has been active in Mali since 2021, following a military coup that led to the country's new leadership to turn away from traditional Western partners and seek support from Russia. Wagner's withdrawal was announced the same day Malian troops reportedly pulled out from a key base in central Mali after enduring a second deadly attack in under a week. Last Sunday, an al-Qaeda-linked group claimed responsibility for a major assault on Boulikisi, where over 30 soldiers were killed, according to Reuters. Mali has faced a brutal Islamic insurgence for more than a decade. After failing to contain the violence, the civilian government was overthrown in a military coup. French troops, once deployed to combat jihadists, withdrew in 2022 after relations with the Jata deteriorated. The Wagner Group subsequently filled the power vacuum, drawing criticism from Western nations and human rights groups. Despite Wagner's declared success, militant activity has intensified in recent weeks, raising questions about the long-term stability of the region. The group did not clarify whether any Russian personnel would remain in Mali under different auspices or be redeployed elsewhere, such as Niger or Burkina Faso, where Russian influence is also growing. Wagner's future, particularly after the death of its founder, Yevgeny Prigozhin, in 2023, remains opaque. The group has continued operating in various African nations, often providing security services in exchange for mining or strategic concessions. Just before we end the news, a quick look at tomorrow's weather forecast. And to end the news today, a quick recap of the headlines. Deported Salvadorian national Kilmar Abrago Garcia indicted on federal smuggling charges. Handful of House Democrats join GOP in passing sanctuary city crackdown bills. Trump administration asks Supreme Court to uphold Education Department layoffs. Trump urges Fed to slash interest rate despite strong jobs report. German Chancellor urges U.S. to lower tariffs, supports open markets. And that's the news for today. Join us tomorrow for more news. I'm Barbara Sam. Good night and God bless.